I'm John Spellar, a Labour Member of Parliament, previously a Defence Minister in the Labour government, and for 4 years Deputy Foreign Affairs Spokesman for the Labour Party. I know that many who have been exiled and forced out of Iran, and indeed many of those in Iran, are looking forward to the gathering at the end of this month when parliamentarians and others from all around the world will be showing their solidarity with the people of Iran in their struggle for their rights and freedom, and for Iran to play a positive rather than a negative role in the world. Because there is an increasing realization, not just about Iran's nuclear deal, but also Iran's very significant involvement in terrorist activities and criminal activities right the way across the world, principally, of course, in its neighbors in the Middle East, but even down into South America. And that rogue regime is not only causing international problems, it's also obviously causing huge problems at home in Iran. And that's why it's not surprising, in spite of the huge and vicious repression that the regime brings in to try and stop protests against its maladministration, why it's not surprising that that still happens. Because in a country with rich in natural resources, but also rich in individual resources, with a very educated population, unfortunately, many of them living now abroad, quite a number in the United Kingdom, where they are actually adding to our life and also to our economy and our society. And yet their ability, their training, their creativity is being stifled by an outdated and brutal regime, and one which therefore has to resort to revolutionary guards and brutal police action in order to prevent the understandable concerns, because they're not able to express that democratically. And so a country with all of those natural and human resources is facing endless economic crisis, partly brought about by the way in which Iran has damaged its relations with the international community, but also partly by huge mismanagement of the country itself. And that's particularly now coming forward in the mismanagement of water and the agricultural crisis that is therefore moving the protest and indeed the misery out of the cities and into the traditionally supportive countryside. Other countries in the region are all enormously concerned that as a distraction, Iran is stepping up its efforts to destabilize its neighbors, whether that's in Syria and Lebanon, whether that's in support for Hamas in Gaza, or whether it's along the Gulf, or indeed the huge amounts of effort and energy and money that are being spent in propping up the brutal Houthis in their attempts to take over Yemen. All as a distraction from the crisis at home, but of course people in Iran will now be legitimately asking, should the regime be spending that money in these terrorist activities abroad when there are so many problems to be solved at home? And that's why Democrats around the world, including in Europe and including in Britain, need to stand in solidarity with the Iranian people in their struggle against this brutal and outdated regime, which is such a block to progress, not only in Iran, but in the wider region. I give my welcome to that conference as another step in the liberation of Iran.